guys, I'm Evelyn.
And I'm Robert.
And this is Talking About It.
Right, so today's episode is Shelob's Lair. This is the second to last chapter in the Two Towers.
Right, which is insane that we've gotten this far.
I know, we've been doing this for over 2 years.
Right?
Who would have thought? Okay, so I'm not gonna ask you particulars about your predictions yet, but were your predictions for this chapter good or bad? Off or on?
I mean, I can just say what my predictions were to remind everyone.
Okay, that'd be good.
Yeah, so basically, as discussed last time, with Shelob's Lair, I vaguely recollected that this had to be the spider person, because I recognized the name.
The spider person.
Yeah.
It's not a person.
Well, spider thingy-mabobber monster. You know
Spider-Man is a spider person.
That's true. But anyway, so I knew it was this like giant spider monster thing, even though I don't really know anything about him. And so I predicted that Shelob was a spider. I predicted they were going to get caught in some webs, and I predicted that Sam was going to save the day.
Okay. All right, that sounds good.
Yeah. So we'll discuss it when we get there.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
All right, so Shelob's Lair. So it's interesting because I like to know what names mean in his books.
Okay.
Because he's always put some significance on it.
Uh-huh.
And guess what Shelob means in his language?
If you say spider.
Not just spider, it's she-spider.
So it's a mama spider. Got it. Lovely.
But we get...
But she's like the OG spider, right? If I'm getting context correctly. So Shelob's like, but with like she spider, I guess that makes sense because if I'm getting the context of this book correctly, she's the OG, right? She's the OG spider.
Actually, she's not.
Oh, okay.
But alive in Middle Earth at this time? Yes.
Okay.
But there was a creation of her that we'll talk about when we start talking more about her.
Okay.
Okay?
Because this chapter kind of starts off with, just diving right into it, this chapter starts off, they're finally getting to the top of those, like, no-no stairs. That's what I've been calling them in my head, the no-no stairs.
The no-no stairs.
Yeah, I would, nope, no. I would never climb them. It sounds awful and scary.
And it sounds awful and scary, but we're going to watch the movie.
Okay.
But how Peter Jackson filmed that is like probably like a 2.5, 3 foot wide stair carved out of the side of the cliff that they're going up,
So less dangerous than what it seems in the book.
No. It's much more dangerous than it seems in the book.
Oh.
I mean, it's just like this giant staircase that somebody like glued to the side of a cliff.
Oh my God, I don't like heights, and I have a fear of falling, and it just sounds awful.
And
I'm probably going to get anxiety from that part.
And this is where George Lucas got the idea of no handrails.
You made that joke last time.
I know, and I stand by it. But we're starting to get even into a darker place. I don't mean just physically darker.
But like literally darker. Like,
yeah, the essence of the place.
So it's starting to get really dark in this chapter really fast, like right from the get-go. And I mean literally dark. There's this darkness, there's this disgusting stench. It's getting hard to breathe. And I'll admit, when I first started reading it, I didn't get it at first. I thought they were just going so high up this like cliff or mountain that the air was getting thin. So it actually took me a second to realize, oh, it's because of this whole stench thing, not because of the thin air. Like, that was my first instinct. And then it became immediately clear that I was wrong. But
yeah, and it's also interesting that Gollum never told them the name of this place
Right.
because it probably would have given his plan away. Because the name of this place, once they get up the stairs and into the tunnels, is called Taroth Ngul, which means Tunnel of the Spider.
Lovely.
And Frodo may have known. I know he knows some of the language.
Yeah, so Frodo might have gotten it.
Yeah.
So it was definitely suspicious that Gollum didn't give them the name. I wasn't like immediately. I will say it's like this is just jumping around a little bit with spoilers, though I guess not really spoilers if you're because we're talking about it. But it I was not that suspicious at first when with Gollum, which we'll get to in a minute.
Well,
but,
actually, I was going. That's the next thing I got on our notes.
Okay. So yeah, so like as they're going through, it's getting darker, it's getting harder to breathe. It's turning into this tunnel, and they they lose Gollum. And for me, this is not the first time we've lost Gollum. Like Gollum will just disappear and reappear. So I was honestly not that suspicious. I was just like, there he goes again, just wandering off like your drunk friend. Like
And but also here, Sam is just keeping up with the verbal jabs at Gollum too.
yes.
And he's even more doing it more so than previously even.
Right, because he's agitated, and I totally vibe with that. Like, the more agitated I get, the more, like, harump, harump, harump I get.
Well, he's not really harump. He's much more further.
Yeah, he's very angry.
And okay, and so
because it's disgusting. It's an awful experience that they're going through right now.
and so, thinking about that, and being an ethics professor, I wanted to look at a question for us to maybe briefly talk about.
Okay.
Do you think Sam's actions and words leads Gollum to the path he eventually takes? Or did it just make it easier for him to do?
Oh, I think it just made him easier to do. Like, again, once we get a little further into this chapter, talking about like what Gollum actually does, I think Gollum always had like this. I think Gollum might have had a touch of, do I really want to do this? At one point, I do think that he might have second guessed himself at some points, but I think several things led him to continue to do it. Not just Sam, but I do think that played a big part in making it like easier for him to do it. Like, for sure. I don't see any, even if Sam was kinder to Gollum, I think that it would have to be very extreme for something else positive to have happened to get him to change what he's doing. Like, especially with everything that happens at like the waterfall and other things, like I feel like it would have to be like an extreme thing for him, even with Gimli with Sam being nice to him, to not make that choice. This was, as we'll see, this is predetermined. This is like, this definitely like shook me a little bit. It's just like, we'll get to it, but yeah, that's just a long-winded way of me saying I think it would have always happened. He might have just had a slight twinge of caution. What word am I trying to say?
I don't know.
Conscience?
Yes.
That word. He might have had a brief, like, he might have had like some brief thing with that, but other than that, I think that it would have been inevitable.
So, okay. And about right here is where Tolkien starts to change his use of language too. Because remember we talked about like back when they were still in Hobbiton and all that. It was like things only had very simple descriptions.
Right.
The grass is green. The sky is blue, stuff like this. But now he's talking about black vapors,
Yes.
wrath of darkness.
Like, just the pure rottenness that you get. And because again, when we get into like some of the forest stuff, especially like towards the beginning with Old Man Willow, it's like, it's like, oh my gosh, it's a long journey. This forest is kind of suspicious. It's kind of dark. There's anxiety. And there's definitely been other parts of the book where it's just like, ooh, this is getting my anxiety going. This got me right with the rottenness. Like, I could picture it. I could smell it. I was cringing from it. His use of words and his turn of phrase really, really got to me in this chapter.
Okay. And then, so one of the things that's also interesting here is, so, according to the Silmarillion, it tells us that Shelob's parent, I'm doing air quotes,
Okay.
Shelob's parent had sucked all the light that she could find in that area and created these dark nests of blue. I'm sorry. We know that Shelob's parent sucked out all the light in this area that she could find and created these dark nets of gloom. She was also responsible for sucking out all the sap from the trees in Valinor and belched forth these black vapors. So she even took something from creation, destroyed it, and then took that energy to make it just the opposite of what it originally was.
Interesting. Wow, okay. That's really interesting though. Cause usually you'll hear these stories of like, light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. But this is no, we have sucked all of the light from this. There is nothing.
Except something we're going to talk about in a minute.
I hate you. Okay. Yeah, we will. Okay.
But you're right, though. Right now, there is nothing that can penetrate this darkness.
Yeah.
Nothing of this world.
Nothing of this world, yes. That's a good way to put it.
Right. So then we get them, Frodo and Sam, walking down this hallway.
So, yes, I wanted to talk a little bit about this hallway because I don't know why I really focused on this, but I did. Where I loved the attention to detail where they're like, this is the widest path, so we're going to keep following it because Gollum wouldn't, like, just leave us without telling us where to turn, so we should probably keep going straight. And again, I wasn't suspicious of him in this moment. I'm just like, you're just being a douchebag. And so as they're like, they can't see anything, and so they do what I do, which is they have a hand on their wall and they're finding these openings to tunnels.
Right.
And I find
but
that
they're also feeling things brushing against their hair.
I know. Too. It was but it's just like, oh, I can't imagine like touching the wall for one. Like that sounds so gross and disgusting. Like I'm okay with spiders, but I have a thing about texture, and I hate spider web texture specifically. So ooh. But I just thought it was really interesting that it's like they have all these crazy little tunnels, and it really felt like this like it really gave me vibes of the Minotaur maze from Greek mythology.
Okay.
Where, for those unfamiliar with the myth, basically this whole like labyrinth was created for people to get lost and be hunted by the Minotaur, which it's a much more complicated myth than that, but that's the basis of what I'm referring to at this moment. And it's really reminding me of that labyrinth. Feel that vibe where it's just like she doesn't just want to eat you, she wants to hunt you, she wants to enjoy the chase,
right,
is really what I was kind of getting from that. And I thought that was really, really good to get the vibe, even before we met the monster, to get the vibe of the monster.
Right. So I also again love how Tolkien writes this out. because so as they're walking along, Frodo almost fell into a void.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's this emptiness that's starting to take over within him. He
It's that lack of sunshine.
Yeah, and he's physically teetering Frodo between light and I don't want to call it darkness yet, but it's teetering between light and something almost dark. I'm doing finger quotes again.
Could it be influence of the ring being near such a nasty creature that's influencing him,
yeah,
or is it the ring on top of it?
I think the ring makes it worse, but I also think the ring also makes it better. Because the ring, remember, the ring wants to get back to its master.
Right.
And so
it's not like feeding off of this evil that's around it. It's just adding to it. Gotcha. Okay.
Right, and
that's
then,
what I wasn't sure about.
And then also some things I wanted to point out here. So Frodo is on the left-hand side.
Okay.
Okay. So
is this a Catholic religious thing?
Well, no, actually, it's cultural.
Okay.
The left hand is the sinister side. That's what it's called.
Oh, yeah.
We
talked about that before.
Even in hierarchy, even in heraldry, if there's a left hand somewhere in the coat of arms, the official title is the sinister hand. And then we also get Sam falls forward at one point.
Yeah.
Which also is telling. Sam is still focused on getting this done. Even when he falls, he's falling closer to the object.
Okay.
And it's interesting to me also, why now in the story are we talking about this? And so I think that Sam is still focused on, like I said, still focused on getting Frodo where Frodo's got to be. And we also know that Frodo, at this point, Frodo will not leave Sam behind like his original intention back when he took the boat.
They're in this together.
And so, as they're walking along, they come to a fork. They come to where this one passage starts off with two passages, and so they have to make a decision on which way to go. And at this point, Gollum's not around.
This is when I was like, okay, where is he? Like, I wasn't suspicious. I was more like, dude, where are you? Like, this whole chapter really, for those listening, I was supposed to film myself reading this chapter to react to it, but technology is all I'm going to say. But I was, again, coming up, I was shocked. I wasn't like, oh my God, like jumping out of my seat shocked, but my face was definitely like, what?
What?
I think I audibly did that, honestly. I probably did.
And we get the idea that Gollum has left again, but maybe not. Maybe he's just staying far enough away from them so they think he's gone. Well, he's still keeping an eye on.
Well, that's 2020 eyesight, perspective. That's hindsight.
Yes, correct.
But again, me reading this for the first time, I did not get that. Now that I'm looking back, it's just like, yeah, he was definitely hiding in the shadows, just like, hee. But me reading it for the first time, I was just like, where are ya? Chop, chop, let's go.
Yeah, and also here, both Sam and Frodo, it's been mentioned in this chapter that they feel like something's watching them.
Yes. Yeah, they definitely feel like something's watching them. They kind of whisper it to each other a little bit. Like, they both acknowledge that they both realize this, but they make the cautious decision to continue forward and hope for the best, kind of.
Right.
Where they're just like, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Let's just keep moving. There's really nothing else to do, so.
Right. Yeah, and the other interesting part about that is, for them, it seems like sound has intensified.
Yeah, every little, like, creak or slither
Yeah.
is deafening.
And I mean, they can't see a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And even at this point, Tom Bombadil's name is mentioned and hoped for.
Yeah,
so
when
I
I
love
saw
the
that, I was
callback.
like,
I
yeah.
forgot about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the callback. I noticed that. I'm just like, oh, yeah, he could be useful.
But then
just boop the snoot of the spider, and just with a newspaper. No, back to your lair. Just what I can imagine.
Right. And I'm not going to get into it because I want you to read it. But Sam suddenly remembers the light, the gift from Gadriel.
Yes.
And it's Sam is thinking about it. I also want to point out here that Sam is still calling Frodo Master.
Okay.
Even at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what they've been through. I mean, they're friends. But even
to me, it just kind of felt like a habit kind of thing.
Well, I know.
And like,
yeah,
not necessarily a term of endearment, but close.
But I think it also, Tolkien uses it to remind us that Sam is still committed.
Yes.
To Frodo.
Okay. Yeah.
And but when Sam mentions it, Frodo kind of asks himself why he had forgotten about it. And again, I see this as Tolkien's way of telling us about Frodo's struggle between light and dark. Yeah. This struggle has kept him from thinking about the thing that could give them light.
Right. Like, not only that, but also it kind of shows the toll that he's under, where he forgets such this fantastical gift that could be potentially useful, and he's just so I'm trying to figure out how to say what I want to say. He's so deep into despair that that's all he can really think about, is just trying to take another step.
So, some interesting background now.
Okay.
So the phrase Frodo speaks in order for the light to intensify is Hel Eladril, brightest of stars. Now Tolkien got the idea from an old English poem called Christ. Christ, Crist, from the 10th century. These poems concern topics such as the advent of Christ and the ascension of Christ.
Okay.
And so, so he's mixing all that into his descriptions and his ideas for writing and so forth. But it also originated from an experience Tolkien had. He first read the poem in 1913, the year he turned 21. And after reading that poem is when he asked Edith to marry him.
Okay.
So I find that really interesting. That so much of this gets tied back to not only the way he likes to use language, but he also, consciously or unconsciously, is guided by his past in writing this book.
Yeah.
So Shelob is so old.
How old is she?
Well, so there are stories about, there are old ancient elven stories about.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So ancient to an elf, that's old.
Right. We're talking about around the end of the first age. Because what's going on right now is third age.
Right.
So, so at the end of the first age, where um, Indra went from being a Valar to a star.
Valars are like the god people, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. And so this darkness is not pierceable by any light other than something like this.
Okay.
I mean, it's connected to the Valar. It's connected to uh, the brightest star
Mm-hmm.
in the heavens. Uh, but then, interesting enough, light, even light from this, gets pushed back a little bit.
Yes. That was freaky to me.
And then...
But what do they see when they finally have it? A bunch of eyes.
Clusters of eyes.
Ugh. I can't imagine, like, I just imagine just, like, a one-story building size of a spider.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I'm imagining.
And
like, that's how big of a spider I'm kind of imagining. It's probably not going to be that exorbitant in the movie, but that's, in my mind, like a wall of just eyes.
So, in other places, Tolkien writes that Shelob is most like a spider. So Shelob is technically not a spider. Shelob
Okay.
is most like a spider. And one of the things that comes away from being spider-like is that these cluster of eyes are like mammal eyes.
Oh, I didn't get that from reading it.
They're not like
Like a spider eye.
they're not like the multi-prism eyes like spiders.
Yeah.
They're more like they work more like
Mammals.
mammal eyes.
Okay.
And she's got
Oh, that's even freakier.
Yes, it is. And she also has 2 horns. And she is completely black except for the underpart, which is a little pale and even luminous. A little luminous. So there's a little bit of light production or light reflection coming from her underside.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, when you see those stupid cars going down
Well,
the
no, I
road.
know what it is. I'm just waiting for the symbolism.
It's just the symbolism is just, keeping the light close so it can't escape.
Okay.
And even the light is below her. So it's really not doing anything other than perhaps maybe creating shadows of her, which makes it even more scary.
Yeah.
And then Frodo calls on Galadriel too and lifts the light up. And that's when the eyes halted, it says.
Yes.
And he even takes out Sting.
Yes, he remembers Sting as well.
And so, but taking Sting out here is also a callback to Frodo. The first time Frodo ever used it.
You mean Bilbo?
Sorry. So when Bilbo first used Sting, it was to...
It was with those spider things.
Right, and it was to cut the dwarves free.
Yeah.
So a real interesting callback. But it also gives him the courage to confront Shelob.
Yes.
And Shelob even backs down a little bit.
Right. At this part, did we want to go ahead and talk about the backstory of Shelob before we continue?
Sure.
Okay.
So...
Because I know you had a lot to say.
Yeah. So in reading the history of Middle-earth, Shelob was in the world even before Sauron.
Oh, okay.
Sauron knew about her when he took over that area and started building up in that area, but left her alone since she guarded the rear of his realm.
I mean, makes sense. Making allies. Okay.
And he said, it says that he felt it was worth losing minions to keep Shelob happy.
Ooh.
In there. So that...
Okay, so it's like he's So he's not like an over-encompassing, like, I need all the power kind of thing, and everyone must love me and do as I say. He's actually, this shows he's actually, like, a rather smart tactician, where he's just like, this thing may be uncontrollable, so I'm going to ally with it, even if it means sacrificing some things.
Right. And so Shelob is the offspring of Ungoliant. And I'm sorry, Ungoliant. And this is a primordia creature. So even in the beginning of creation, this creature, this primordial being, takes the shape of a giant spider. And this is Shelob's, for all purposes, and lack of other words, is Shelob's mother.
Okay.
Okay? Even Valars and the hunters gave way to her. They didn't, they didn't want to mess.
They didn't want to mess
They
with
didn't
her.
want to mess with her, but even they don't know where she really came from. All of a sudden,
she was there, and people went, uh-oh. It's like, oh, we're not gonna investigate this. We're just gonna let her be.
Right. And so, still talking way back in the creation of Middle Earth, is Malcor was the first Dark Lord, and was also a primordial being.
Okay.
Source of all the evil in the world.
Right on.
So eventually we'll talk more about him in the future. But for now, I just want to have enough information to understand how Shelob came to be.
So what I'm imagining is Shelob just like a spore, or like not necessarily like sporing from this other monster, but like cell division almost.
Maybe.
That's kind of what I'm imagining.
Yeah.
It's the same way I imagine Dementors breeding, right, where it's just cell division.
Yeah. Oh, and then one last thing I want to say about Melkor. Melkor took Sauron on as his right-hand man. So again, we're getting evil being taught from evil.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, Sauron is basically learning the tricks of the trade from evil itself.
Gotcha. So that gives me a lot of questions, but I guess we'll get to those later. Because the questions that makes me ask is, well, what happened to that guy that Sauron's now the big evil? And, like, was it kind of like a Sith apprentice kind of thing where, like, the apprentice always kills the master and tries to take over and becomes the Sith Lord kind of deal?
No.
I gave it a guess.
But then Frodo and Sam all of a sudden shake out of whatever was going on with them and starts to run.
They make a run for it, which, yeah.
And even as they're running, their strength begins to return to them, and to both body and soul. So like both limb and heart.
So it's kind of like an adrenaline shot.
Right, yeah.
This light is just like really kind of like, here you go. Let's take a shot of espresso and get out of here.
And as they're running, they come up on these giant spider webs, blocking them from going any further. And Sam tries to just imagine them as being, oh, these are just cobwebs. We can just clear these out of the way.
Yeah,
but then
his knife can barely get through it.
Well, his knife can barely get through it, and
which again terrifies me, because for the average listener who does not know this, spider web strings are very, very strong for how small they are. Like, it's crazy how strong they are. And so, thinking of this massive building size spider size webs, wow, could that be amazing building material is my first thought, but also gross because I hate the texture, and just, oh my god, how big is this thing that this material can't be cut by a knife? It freaks me out even more.
Well,
I'm not scared of spiders, but I am scared of Shelob.
right, and also it doesn't tell us that these web-like things are from Shelob. They can very well be from her mother.
Oh, so this could be like the ancient
Right,
place where they originally did the whole like darkness sucking thing.
right, and
Okay, I didn't think about that.
so,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
so these webs are made out of also primordial material.
That would make more sense, which is
Okay,
also terrifying.
yeah, and so Frodo thinks about Sting and uses it to cut.
Hmm.
And as he was doing this, he was also seeing the morning, and it suddenly gave him hope.
Yes.
So Frodo is yelling back at Sam uh, about let's do that, what they should be doing and getting out of there.
Hmm.
So Frodo is kind of awoke from whatever was going on. All
Yeah.
of a sudden he's focused on the right type of things.
Yeah.
And again, here we get the idea that there is nobody who could rival Shelob. Shelob was there before Sauron, as I said earlier, before the buildings of some of these ancient cities even.
Yeah.
Um, so, but even though Sauron allows her to live, she does not see Sauron as having any authority over her. And it's interesting because I actually can't remember if it's written here. I don't think so. I think it's written elsewhere. But Sauron calls Shelob his cat.
Interesting. So I bet she does, but like a cat, she does. She knows that they have no control over you.
Right? And then we find out about Gollum's deal with Shelob.
Yes. Sam starts to shout at Frodo to watch out, and all of a sudden, this disgusting, clammy hand just goes over his mouth, and I went, "What?"
Yep. But also we get the idea that Gollum worships her
Okay.
in some way because he's bringing her a sacrifice.
Yes. He sees her as like this potential like this saving grace to him where he can finally get his precious back from the nasty hobbitses. And I I was I loved the writing of this part because we see that Gollum really was doing the long con where there were plenty of places he probably could have easily disposed of Sam and Frodo, but he's like, no, I'm going to sacrifice them, get my reward, and then I'll be happy with my precious, and Shelob will like me, and we'll live happily ever after as best buds. That's what I got from it.
Right. And Gollum is living by the letter of the law, not necessarily the spirit of the law.
Right.
He promised he would not harm the master.
And he doesn't harm the master.
Yeah.
Someone else does.
Yeah, he makes the opportunity for something else to do it.
Yes.
So I want everybody who's been reading along with us to go back and just read this fight scene between Sam and Gollum again.
It was so good.
It was not only is it good, it's just some of the best writing that Tolkien's done in these books so far, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, just we can see it in our mind, but he didn't use 2 pages of notes to get it into our mind.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
It was pure action, and I could visualize it kind of in real time of it working out.
and then finally, Sam's rage overpowers his thoughts of Frodo. Um, and is this a result of the darkness starting to get to him?
Mm.
Uh, but then uh, Sam was too late.
Yeah.
Sam was too late. Now, I know one of the arguments, for argument's sake, basically, about this whole thing is people are like, well, how did Shelob stab through Frodo's armor?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I've read all kinds of fan theories and everything.
Okay.
But if you just think about it, Shelob is older than most of this world.
So she could be older than Mithril.
But also she's made from primordial, well, she's the spawn
Of primordial
primordial and,
being, yeah.
and so
So it's like rock, paper, scissors, Mithril, primordial.
right. Yeah, he just Tolkien is basically telling us here that that's how strong and ancient Shelob is again.
Right.
Because she's able to overcome this mortal made armor.
Right.
I mean, even though it's ancient and made by dwarves and da 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 da.
And refined. She's older than those techniques.
Right. It's something I meant to look up, but I forgot to, and I'm not sure of it, but I'm going to share it here. I think that she's even older than the race of dwarfs.
Oh, that created it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know for sure. I forgot to go back and research that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in my mind that was the case.
That would be interesting to look at. Okay.
So I want to go back and review your predictions. How many came true? How many didn't?
Well, I feel like this was kind of a give me chapter. Because, like, I kind of knew who Shelob was. So it's like, I was like, yeah, that's the spider thing. That name's familiar. And then I would argue against myself saying that they didn't get caught up in the webs. I feel like I could make an argument, but I feel like that argument would be bull. So I'm not going to make that argument because I wouldn't even believe myself. So I'm going to say no. My other one was Sam saves the day. And I was going to ask you about this prediction. Can I use this prediction since the chapter stopped kind of midway through the action? Can I keep that prediction through to the next chapter to the end of this encounter? Because I still think
There's no real end to this encounter. I mean, there is, but not for a long,
to the
long
Shelob
time.
encounter.
Okay.
Is what I mean. To the Shelob specific encounter, I want to say that Sam will save the day. It's just it stopped in the middle of the action, and I still think that Sam's going to be the one to save the day. Can I get away with continuing that prediction for this particular encounter?
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
so. So I just paused our recording so I can go back and see if I can find that information to confirm or deny it.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, it's going to take more than a 5-minute research.
So if we ever figure it out, we'll let you guys know.
So that's this chapter. I hope everybody enjoyed reading that as much as I do. I mean, because that's one of those chapters.
Yeah, that was a good chapter.
That's one of those chapters that makes these books rereadable.
Yes, for sure.
And our next chapter then is called The Choices of Master Samwise.
Okay.
All right,
So,
first of all,
with my continuing prediction, does that count as one prediction, or is that a continuation of my previous prediction? So I need to make 3.
Yeah, you still need
that's what
a
I was
new
thinking.
3. Yeah.
Okay. So we haven't determined whether or not that prediction is wrong yet because the action is still continuing. But the choices of Master Samwise.
Note the words used even here.
I know. That's what I'm trying to think.
Master.
I know. Oh, that makes me like, oh my god, I want to know. I want to read it right now. Which, after this recording, we actually are going to do a double recording in real time with us, though it'll be weeks for you guys. But it's like, oh my god, I honestly don't know what to think. It's wow. Okay. Mm, can I get away with saying that the master part is in reference to him finding confidence in himself and not having to take orders, but able to give orders and become somewhat of a leader to, like, as part of the saving, but he has a little bit more of his own, like, I'm going to do this without asking.
Okay.
Choices. So I think he's the choice is I think I'll make this my third prediction which one it is. But my second prediction is the choice is going to be going after Gollum or saving Frodo, where I feel like this darkness is really getting to him and he really wants to just wring Gollum's neck. But he knows logically he needs to save Frodo, and there's like this torn, like the darkness is starting to get to him kind of thing.
Okay.
And then for that prediction, well, I already predicted he's going to save the day, so I guess we'll just make that part B of that prediction is he does choose to save Frodo. So I need a third proper prediction. Ooh, I'm going to predict that Shelob doesn't die. I feel like that's like the obvious place to go is that they'll defeat her. I think she won't die. I think she'll just be like, bye. I think she'll just peace out.
Okay. All right.
Does that work?
Yeah, you can use that as a prediction.
Okay. All right. We'll we'll have to see if I'm anywhere close because I really don't know for this one. For all I know, his choice could be: is he just gonna finally just leave? Which does I do want to bring to the point, like, I don't think that's gonna happen because I do have the continuing.
Well, there's a whole new book. There's a whole nother book.
Well, no, I have the continuing prediction for the entire series that Sam and Frodo will never be separated. For the during their journey.
Okay.
I have that ongoing prediction. So it's like part of me wanted to be like, oh, is he gonna like separate from Frodo? I'm like, no, I don't think they'll separate. So, because it's like my mind kind of wanted to go there where it's just like where it's like they separate, but it's like I really don't think they'll separate. Like, even if like I don't know, like Shelob like brings like Frodo away for like a minute or something, to me that's not separating. Where Sam like immediately finds Frodo, cuts him free, and like I don't know, this dance battle or something. So, yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. If we're done.
I think we're done.
Okay, so I've been Robert.
And I've been Evelyn.
And you've been listening to Token About It.